Hi, you're watching Gearwire.com. We're at Winter NAMM 2010 at the Eigenlabs booth, and I'm here with Eigenlabs company founder James Lambert. Hi.
Hi. Hi.
So tell us a little bit about the Eigenharp and what its history actually is.
We've been working on it since 2001. We founded the company then, and we've had a long sort of R&D phase, about 8-9 years of developing technologies, trying them, throwing them away. We really only started to solve the problem about 3 years ago for real. So it's had a long gestation, you know.
And so, what was the sort of the inspiration behind this sort of multi-expression controller instrument?
That goes back a long way. I had a trance ambient band with a bunch of other guys in the early 90s, and we played sort of clubs in London, you know, in the warehouse scene. And we mixed up real instruments with electronic instruments, with a lot of sequence stuff, a lot of machine-driven stuff. And we did that in order to put the humanity into the kind of electronic music. It was very successful, we enjoyed ourselves and had a lot of good fun. But actually, I always wanted to have some way of driving the electronic stuff in the same way that I could drive the guitar, or the saxophonist Ian could play the saxophone and really communicate emotion, communicate that kind of feeling that it's impossible to get just playing a keyboard with MIDI.
What do you think were the sort of biggest challenges in the development? Was it more the technology? Was it more in the design? More of the sort of the logistics of where to put everything?
Yeah, actually, it was almost all of those things. We really did try to go back to ground zero and just start from scratch. We actually looked at the ergonomics of the way it hangs on the body, so you can hang our instruments on the body, and you take your hands off them, they stay where they're put because they hang off the center of mass of the instrument. You can twirl them around. You can be really expressive with it. You can look like a player, when you're running around on stage. At the same time, we wrote a very complex and big software system that allows all that expressivity that the key sensor technology delivers to actually really, really affect the outcome of the noises you make. And it makes them really, really a very emotional instrument to play rather than something that's too technical,
There's a software suite that you develop with it. Can it be used as a controller, as a more sort of generic controller for soft synths?
Oh yeah, it can. Basically, our software hosts audio unit instruments and VSTs in the forthcoming Windows release. So you can drive those just fine. It'll put MIDI out the MIDI output, and it does a pretty good job of that. And we have to lose quite a lot of data when we go out into the MIDI world, because obviously MIDI is quite crude by modern standards. And we have our own native instrument format, and the native instrument format is actually being open sourced. So people will be able to write stuff for that, and I think that's going to be quite exciting to see what happens over the next year. We're getting some interest already in our user community of people who are actually playing these already. Quite a few of them turn out to be software engineers, and they're all wildly enthusiastic about the idea of being able to write instruments for this. So it's pretty broad. It interoperates with almost everything else. It does MIDI clock, so you can sync it up to sequencers, and you can drive Ableton from it. Lots of people are driving Ableton Live from it. You can drive Logic from it pretty well as well. So we've tried to interoperate. We're not arrogant about this. We're not trying to own the world. We have to interoperate with everything. We've really tried hard to do that. So.
But honestly, it could replace any instrument ever, right?
I would really like to think so, yeah. I think that'd be a great ambition, wouldn't it? That'd be really cool, yeah. Yeah, but we've got some there's some really fun things in it. We've got some physics models now. We've got a clarinet, that's starting to sound, like a clarinet. It's starting to be, and it's, for a clarinet player it won't be interesting, because they'll want all the subtlety that you get with a clarinet. But for me, I can't play the clarinet for toffee. I can't play any reed instrument, really. But I can play a pretty respectable sounding clarinet, actually, on the instrument. So can most people quite quickly. So, that's the power of it, really. It broadens things out for you, And we got the 3 models, which helps you as well. So,
Yeah. So, all right. So, for someone investing in the, the flagship Alpha, what are the sounds that they're going to get sort of out of the box right away, other than the let's say the audio units and plugins they already have?
The first thing to say is that all the instruments, right across the range, from the $590 Pico right up to the $5,900 Alpha, you get the same software and the same sounds. You get the same software suite comes with it all. But we ship the thing with a couple of thousand Apple loops for the loop player, so you immediately are up and running with drums. We ship it with some really nice sound font samples. We ship a Steinway D, 2 gig Steinway D with it in 3 ambiances that Sample Tech did for us. Beautiful sounding piano. a really good Fender Rhodes and a great Wurlitzer as well, tubed, through a tube amp. We have some nice physics models. We ship it with a clarinet and a cello. The newest thing we have is a cello, which is also kind of cool. It's a convolution cello engine. And we have an analog synthesis engine built in, sine wave oscillators, sawtooth, LFOs, envelope generator, all that kind of stuff comes with it. And at the same time you can host audio units, and we shipped a cut down version of Camel Audio's Alchemy with it, which is a really, really nice sounding synth. So, and you got the MIDI out, so you're away and running pretty much out of the box.
That's quite a few options right away.
We wanted to add some value with the software, so we put a bunch of stuff in there.
Now, is there any processing going on the instrument itself, or I know this little box? Is this just a power supply? What is this box down?
The box down, well, on the instrument itself, there's a whole ton of signal processing goes on, but it's all about making the keys work properly.
Okay.
So it doesn't actually make any noise. It does actually have a microphone preamplifier built in, which is a 96K 24-bit, very low noise mic pre, so you can clip a microphone up to the breath controller and run that down through and feed that out to your PA.
Oh, wow, okay.
And there's a headphone output as well, so it does some processing connected with that, so you can do backline monitoring within ear without having to have another wire or any wireless stuff hanging off you.
Cool.
And then on the box on the ground, that decodes all that stuff, and that runs USB up to a host computer, which can be a Mac Mini or any computer, basically, a laptop, Mac
Does it
Mini.
require a host computer? It
requires a host computer because basically it was mad for us to build sound generation in when every year that stuff gets twice as powerful, and it wouldn't be a sensible thing for us to do.
Right.
And yeah, so basically you can run it on a host computer, and at the moment it's Mac only, but it'll be Windows I think we're releasing the first alpha release of that end of this month, beta in February, and hopefully Music Messe in Frankfurt, we're going to make the formal release of the Windows software. So.
Well, as a Mac user, I appreciate that you released the Mac version first.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Well, a lot of our customers at the moment are Mac users, but particularly with the Pico, it's a more entry-level instrument, $590. People can actually, it's not an expensive purchase, and a lot of those customers don't have Macs. They'll have PCs, and they don't want to go and buy a computer. If you're spending $5,900 on an Alpha, the cost of a Mac Mini for $700 to run it is not so much, Whereas if you're buying a $590 Pico, you don't want to have to go and buy a whole computer just to run it. So
that'd be a disappointment.
Yeah, it would be a bit annoying. Yeah.
Well, it's a beautiful instrument, and thanks very much for taking the time with us.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure.